People have long believed that the greatest ancient mysteries lie beneath the scorching sands of Egypt or hidden among the crumbling ruins of Mesopotamia. But what if the most astonishing enigmas, those that modern science still cannot explain, are quietly buried beneath the ancient soil, deep within the mountains, tombs, and forgotten cities of China? A pyramid larger than Giza, yet erased from every official map. Massive caves carved deep into solid rock with no trace of tools left behind. Mysterious symbols etched into bones and turtle shells appearing even before the invention of writing. And a tomb sealed for over 2,000 years, said to contain rivers of mercury, deadly mechanical traps, and secrets no one dares to awaken. These are not myths. They are real archaeological sites, real artifacts that have been discovered, and real questions that science has yet to answer. In 1945, American pilot James Gaussman, flying from India to China, reported a shocking sight, a massive pyramid-like structure standing alone in the fields near Xi'an, Shanxi province. He claimed to have taken photographs and notes, but for decades this account was nearly forgotten, dismissed as a misunderstanding or a pilot's illusion. Gaussman wasn't the only one. Another US Air Force pilot, Maurice Sheehan, also reported seeing a pyramid with a flat, truncated top while flying over the mountains of China. His sighting was published in the New York Times on March 28, 1947, sparking fascination among Western scholars. But not long after, the Chinese government officially denied the existence of any such pyramids in the country. Part 2. When satellites told the truth. It wasn't until the 1990s that satellite images from Google Earth and independent archaeological investigations revealed something undeniable. The pyramids in China not only exist, they are numerous. Around the ancient city of Xi'an, a lone capital of over 13 dynasties, more than 30 pyramid-like structures have been identified. Many are so heavily overgrown with vegetation that they appear to be ordinary hills from the ground. Among them is Maoling, the tomb of Emperor Wu of the Han dynasty. It stands about 46 meters tall with a base area of over 50,000 square meters, making it even larger in volume than Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza. One of the most striking differences between China's pyramids and their Egyptian counterparts lies in both construction materials and intentional concealment. Chinese burial mounds were often made from rammed earth and stone, then deliberately covered with soil and vegetation to resemble natural hills. This not only deterred tomb robbers, but also made them difficult to identify for modern archaeologists. Today, the Chinese government maintains strict policies prohibiting excavation of many of these sites. This includes the famed tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Although the terracotta army that guards the tomb has become world-renowned, the central burial chamber remains untouched due to concerns that modern technology may not be capable of preserving its contents once exposed. Part 4. Astronomical Alignments and Ancient Order Research by archaeologist Hartwig Hausdorff, who visited the area in the 1990s, found that many of these pyramids align with celestial phenomena, such as sunrise during the winter solstice or spring equinox. These alignments are reminiscent of Egyptian and Mesoamerican pyramids, which also show astronomical precision. Some researchers have even suggested that the Chinese pyramids may collectively form an ancient astronomical map, similar to how the pyramids at Giza are thought to reflect Orion's belt. Across the ochre-covered Loess Plateau north of Xi'an, the ancient capital of more than 10 Chinese dynasties, lies a forgotten landscape. Not of ruins or scattered stones, but of entire pyramids, dozens of them, rising quietly like soft hills cloaked in centuries of earth time and silence. At first glance, they could easily be mistaken for natural mounds. Trees now cover their flanks. Grass grows undisturbed across their slopes. But from above, through satellite imagery, their symmetry betrays the truth. These are not hills. They are man-made structures, buried pyramids, and they are far more numerous than most realize. Independent researchers and amateur archaeologists have catalogued more than 40 to 100 such pyramids across the region surrounding Xi'an. Most remain unexcavated. Among the largest is Maoling, the tomb of Emperor Wu of the Han Dynasty, nearly 50 meters tall, with a base area equivalent to a stadium. Further west lies Changling, the resting place of Emperor Gaozu, founder of the Han. Built with tiered platforms and aligned to the cardinal directions, its design reflects ancient Chinese geomancy feng shui in practice. But the real mystery may not be their size or number. It's their arrangement. German researcher Hartwig Hausdorff, after visiting the area in the 1990s, proposed that many of these pyramids are not randomly placed. Instead, they appear to align with solar positions such as sunrise and sunset during solstices, or form geometric layouts resembling ancient star maps. While controversial, his observations point to a deeper intention behind their construction. Were these tombs also observatories, cosmic calendars, or part of a long-lost spiritual system? Whatever the answer, it is clear these pyramids were never meant to stand alone. They form a silent city of the dead, stretching across the landscape, and modern science has only begun to scratch the surface. Despite being visible, mapped, and sometimes even studied from the outside, the vast majority of China's pyramids remain sealed shut. We know they are tombs. We know who lies inside: emperors, empresses, nobles. But what lies with them remains a mystery. And the reason is simple: they have never been opened. The official explanation from Chinese authorities is caution. According to policy, no excavation is to be attempted unless there is a guarantee that everything inside can be preserved. And as it stands, modern archaeological technology is not advanced enough to meet that guarantee. The most iconic example is the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Though it was discovered in the 1970s, famous for the terracotta army standing guard outside the central burial chamber, has never been entered. Ancient texts, like Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian, describe a surreal underground world inside the tomb, rivers of flowing mercury stars embedded in the ceiling, miniature palaces filled with treasure. That might sound like legend until science weighed in. In 2005, researchers from the China University of Geosciences detected extraordinarily high levels of mercury in the soil above the tomb, consistent with the ancient description. This finding suggested that parts of the old records might not be myth at all, but detailed accounts of a real, sophisticated burial complex sealed away for over 2,000 years. Still, the tomb remains untouched, out of reverence, fear, or something else entirely. Many scholars argue that leaving these structures buried may cause more harm than good. Each year, plant roots, water infiltration, and geological shifts eat away at the unprotected interiors. The longer we wait, the more is lost, not to time, but to inaction. More intriguingly, some researchers suggest that these pyramids may contain artifacts, writings, or technologies that could reshape our understanding of ancient China or even the ancient world as a whole. Some fringe theorists, like author Graham Hancock, go further, proposing that these pyramids are remnants of a lost civilization predating dynastic China itself. While mainstream science has not embraced such claims, one thing is certain: no one can disprove them because no one has looked inside. And that perhaps is the greatest mystery of all. Not what lies beneath, but why we still haven't dared to uncover it. The buried pyramids of China are not legends or mere speculation. They are real, and they may hold the key to an untold chapter of human history. But as long as the Earth remains undisturbed, and as long as excavation bans remain in place, these pyramids will continue to stand as one of the world's most enduring mysteries, ancient silent, and still unsolved by modern science. In the summer of 1992, a farmer in Longyu County, Zhejiang Province, China, decided to pump water out of a pond that locals had always believed to be a natural body of water. Curious as to why the pond was so unusually deep, and seemingly without any inlet or outlet, he embarked on a task that would ultimately reshape the landscape of archaeological mystery in China. What emerged as the water drained was not a muddy lake bed, but something far more extraordinary: the entrance to an enormous man-made cave with high ceilings and flat vertical walls that appeared to have been carved with machine-like precision, something considered impossible with ancient technology. Over the following months, a total of 24 caves were uncovered. Each one was human-made, carved directly into solid rock. And yet what stunned historians and archaeologists even more was that not a single reference to these structures exists in thousands of years of meticulously recorded Chinese history, to a scale and precision that defies explanation. According to a 2002 survey by a team of Chinese researchers from the China University of Geosciences, all of the Longyu caves were meticulously chiseled out of dense sandstone, covering a combined area of roughly 30,000 square meters. Some of the chambers rise as high as 30 meters, extending nearly 20 meters underground. Inside, one finds rectangular stone pillars, smooth walls, and vaulted ceilings, features rarely seen in ancient subterranean construction. What is most bizarre are the consistent patterns etched into every surface of the caves. Parallel striations, reminiscent of wave patterns or fingerprints, run uniformly along the walls, floors, and ceilings. The grooves are so evenly spaced and precisely executed that they appear machine-cut. No one knows why they were made, or more intriguingly, how. Even more perplexing is the absence of debris. No piles of stone chips, no discarded tools, and no traces of metal instruments were found anywhere in or near the caves. It's as if the millions of cubic feet of excavated rock simply vanished, with an estimated 1 million cubic meters of stone removed. Accomplishing this manually would have required decades of labor by thousands of workers, and yet the historical record is entirely silent. It's hard to believe, but the Longyu caves appear to have never existed in the recorded memory of humanity. In a country known for its meticulous historical documentation like China, where from the Shang dynasty more than 3,000 years ago, every major construction project has left at least some trace in historical records, the fact that a massive underground cave complex like Longyu is completely absent from ancient texts is staggering. Scholars have combed through extensive archives, from Sima Qian's records of the Grand Historian to comprehensive compilations like the Siku Quanshu, and yet not a single line mentions any large-scale excavation or underground construction in this region. But the silence of history is only the beginning of Longyu's anomalies. When archaeologists began excavating and studying the interiors of the caves, they found no signs of human habitation or activity. No ash, no pottery shards, no stone tools or metal implements, no carvings or religious symbols, nothing. The caves are completely empty, silent, and cold, as if they were never meant for any practical, spiritual, or ceremonial purpose. They seem to have been created simply to exist. Various theories have been proposed, ranging from lost civilizations to secret shelters or ancient temples. But if they were dwellings, why are there no signs of life? If they were sacred sites, why is there not a single trace of iconography or ritual structure? If they were quarries, why were they so meticulously carved with deliberate patterns and artistic symmetry? Archaeology magazine once listed Longyu among the 10 greatest archaeological mysteries that defy explanation, alongside other enigmatic sites like the Nazca Lines and the Yonaguni Monument. Professor Yang Hongshun from the Chinese Institute of Ancient Architecture remarked, "If this structure had been built by any known dynasty, there would be documentation. The fact that it's completely absent from the historical record is exactly what makes it so haunting." One of the most astonishing and mysterious aspects of the Longyu Caves is the fact that for centuries, perhaps millennia, the entire cave system lay submerged underwater. Locals, generation after generation, believed the large pools scattered across the region were just natural ponds. No one suspected that beneath the still waters lay a vast man-made structure forgotten by time. When the water was finally pumped out and the cave ceilings revealed, the first thing that stunned experts was the structural integrity of the chambers. Towering stone vaults remained intact. There were no collapses, no signs of serious erosion or water damage, even though the caves were carved into sandstone, a material not known for its durability in prolonged wet conditions. Under normal circumstances, such a structure would have eroded or caved in after a few centuries of flooding. And yet Longyu still stands, with every pattern etched into its walls, crisp and deliberate. This raised profound questions about the engineering knowledge and construction techniques of those who created it. How did they calculate the load-bearing capacity of each chamber with such precision that they didn't need any central support columns? How did they know that this particular type of stone would withstand the pressure of water for thousands of years? And if they didn't know, then why hasn't it collapsed? Some modern geologists, like engineer Chen Xiaowei from the Beijing University of Civil Engineering, have commented, "Even with today's advanced software and simulation tools, designing an underground space like this is a significant challenge. Yet somehow, they achieved this in antiquity with no surviving plans or technical documentation." There are even theories suggesting that Longyu may not have been submerged when it was first constructed, and that its flooding was the result of geological shifts, perhaps an earthquake that altered the groundwater table or caused a sudden drop in the bedrock. But even if that were true, the question remains, why is there no drainage system? And if the flooding was abrupt, why didn't the caves show any structural failure? In 2012, researchers from the University of Tokyo conducted mineral analysis on algae and sediment samples from the cave ceilings, estimating that the last time sunlight touched those surfaces was over 1,000 years ago. For all those centuries, the caves remained submerged, completely hidden from sight. No one entered. No one recorded them. They waited in the silence of deep water, intact, undisturbed, and entirely forgotten. Numerous hypotheses have been put forward to explain Longyu, but none have fully convinced the academic community. Some suggest the caves were once ancient quarries, but this seems unlikely. Quarries are usually open-cut and practical, not closed chambers with intricate carvings and aesthetic symmetry. Others propose they were military storage depots, perhaps during the Warring States period or the Han Dynasty, yet there is no supporting evidence and no artifacts of war have been found. A more speculative idea is that they were religious or ceremonial structures, but there are no signs of altar shrines or religious symbolism from Buddhism, Taoism, or Confucianism. Finally, some propose that the caves were built by a lost civilization, one that predates known Chinese dynasties, but again, no archaeological evidence supports this claim. Even China Heritage Quarterly remarked, "If Longyu had been built by any known dynasty, there would be some documentation." The silence of the record is what makes it so haunting. To this day, the Longyu Caves remain a profound enigma, a challenge to engineering, to history, and to archaeology itself. Teams from Japan, Germany, Russia, and the United States have all visited and studied the site, but no one has provided a definitive explanation. It all started with a drained pond, but what it revealed was a doorway into an ancient mystery far beyond the boundaries of current understanding. Longyu is not just a construction, it is a reminder, a silent testament to how much we still don't know, how much lies buried, how much has yet to be discovered about the deep hidden chapters of our collective past. In 1938, deep in the remote Bayan-Karaula mountain range near the border of Tibet and China, an archaeological team, led by Dr. Chipu Te, stumbled upon an ancient network of caves. But what they found inside puzzled not only the team, but eventually the world. Scattered throughout the cave system were hundreds of strange stone discs, each measuring around 30 centimeters in diameter, featuring a perfectly round hole in the center, resembling a wheel. Most striking of all were the spiral grooves carved into the surface, filled with tiny characters so minuscule they could only be seen through a magnifying glass. In total, 716 stone discs were recorded in documents attributed to the expedition. These mysterious objects later came to be known as the Dropa stones, and from that point on, one of the most controversial tales in archaeological history began. The discs found in the caves of the Bayan-Karaula Mountains baffled archaeologists not only because of their strange shape, but because of what was carved onto them, spiral grooves filled with characters so tiny they could only be seen through a magnifying glass. No one could identify the language. It didn't resemble ancient Chinese, nor did it match any known writing system in recorded history. This unfamiliarity raised a flood of questions. Who carved these symbols, and what were they trying to say? Decades later, in 1962, a scholar named Sum Umnui emerged in Western reports with a shocking claim he had deciphered the inscriptions on the Dropa stones. According to him, they were not religious texts or historical records, as one might expect, but a cry for help from beings not of this earth. In his translation, Sum Umnui stated that the inscriptions told the story of a spaceship crash that had occurred some 12,000 years ago, carrying a race known as the Dropa. After crash landing in the mountains of Tibet, these beings, small-bodied, large-headed, pale-skinned, tried to coexist with the local tribes. But their appearance and language were too alien, and they were mistaken for enemies and hunted down. One passage, reportedly translated from the discs, read, "The Dropa came down from the clouds. Their craft crashed. They asked to stay and live with us, but we did not understand their language and thought they were invaders." The tragic tale quickly spread through circles of pseudo-historical and UFO researchers. But as it did, the name Sum Umnui became yet another mystery. No official academic or archaeological record in China acknowledged his existence. Some sources claimed he was a Japanese scholar based in Beijing. Others believed the name was a pseudonym for a researcher forced into exile for revealing sensitive information. No one knows for certain who he was, but his name and his translation continue to echo through time. Shortly after Sum Umnui's supposed translations began circulating in Western publications, several European researchers claimed to have seen the Dropa stones firsthand. Among them was German investigator Hartwig Hausdorff, who traveled to China in the late 1990s and documented his experiences in the book The Chinese Roswell. He recounted that two of the discs were once briefly displayed in a small museum in Xi'an, only to be taken down quickly after attracting too much attention from foreign media. Hausdorff said he gained access to certain unpublished reports, and even cited one unofficial study suggesting the discs emitted a faint ultrasonic frequency a strange phenomenon if the stones were merely ordinary rock. According to him, museum staff declined to comment when asked about the stones' fate. No one could say where they had gone. No official photographs were ever published. Even the archival records related to the artifacts gradually disappeared. This ambiguity only added fuel to the intrigue. If the entire story was fabricated, why had no major institution issued a decisive debunking? And if the stones were real, why the effort to suppress them? In an age where nearly everything can be verified through images, video, or preserved samples, the dropper stones had seemingly vanished without a trace. And yet the stories from east to west, from books to whispers, persisted like a forgotten thread in the tapestry of history. Faced with these bizarre claims, the mainstream scientific community has consistently dismissed the dropper stones as a hoax. They call it pseudo-archaeology, a speculative fiction disguised as science, fueled by conspiracy theorists and amateur adventurers. Experts have pointed out that there is no official archaeological record of a 1938 expedition by Dr. Chi Pu-te in the Bayan Kara-Ula region. There is no verified manuscript of Tsum Umnui's translation, and most importantly, no physical artifact currently exists that could be subjected to modern testing. However, even within this firm rejection lie unresolved gaps. First, no one has ever clearly identified the origin of the story, who first constructed such a detailed and consistent narrative. Second, the repeated claim that over 700 stone discs were discovered is strangely specific for a mere hoax. And third, the prolonged silence from Chinese authorities, who are known to tightly control archaeological discourse, has only deepened the mystery. If the story is false, why not issue an official statement debunking it once and for all? The tale of the dropper stones persists like a fogged mirror. No one sees it clearly, but everyone senses that something is being reflected. Science has found no proof, but it has also failed to produce a convincing explanation. And in that silence, human imagination continues to spin the legend of outcast beings from distant stars, of ancient messages etched in stone, and of the possibility that perhaps we were never truly alone. Today, the dropper stones continue to appear in pseudo-archaeological books, UFO documentaries, and YouTube videos dedicated to ancient mysteries. Despite the lack of physical evidence, the stones have become a powerful symbol of an unresolved theory. Could ancient humans have once encountered beings from another world? Some have compared the dropper stones to China's version of the Antikythera mechanism, a device so technologically advanced it defied its era. But unlike the Antikythera mechanism, which is preserved and displayed in museums, the dropper stones exist only through retellings and controversy. The dropper stones live at the intersection of unproven science and unrelenting human curiosity. Perhaps they are entirely fictional. Yet the idea of stone discs, carved with alien messages, continues to fascinate, tapping into our desire to understand where we come from and whether we are truly alone in the universe. In a world where most mysteries eventually find resolution, the dropper stones remind us that some stories still resist explanation, and perhaps that's exactly what makes them unforgettable. Tucked away in the quiet mountain ranges of Hubei Province, China, Mufu Mountain is not a name that rings out in archaeology or history books. Yet according to a mysterious tale that began circulating on the internet in the early 2000s, this unassuming peak may be the site of one of the strangest and most unsettling discoveries ever reported: a giant human skeleton said to have been uncovered deep within a forested cave. Posts on forums like above top-secret unexplainedmysteries.com and videos on conspiracy-themed YouTube channels describe a group of miners or researchers stumbling upon the remains during a routine excavation. But what shocked them wasn't just the skeleton. It was its impossible proportions, a skull estimated to be 4 or 5 times the size of a normal human's femur bones, over 2 meters long, and an overall height projected to be between 12 and 15 meters tall. The tale of the giant skeleton at Mufu Mountain didn't become famous simply because of the creature's massive size. What truly elevated it from a strange rumor to a haunting mystery was what happened next, or rather, what didn't. According to multiple versions of the story circulating on online forums and mystery YouTube channels, the discovery was sudden and shocking. Deep in the misty wilderness of China's Hubei province, a team of workers, perhaps miners or surveyors, stumbled upon something extraordinary buried inside a cave system. A skeleton unmistakably human in shape but impossibly large. A skull several times the size of a normal adult's femur bones, over 2 meters long, and a body that experts supposedly estimated would have stood more than 12 meters tall when alive. But just as quickly as this discovery surfaced, it vanished. Within days, sources claimed that a special unit arrived at the site, possibly military, possibly governmental. The area was sealed off. Photographs were confiscated. Equipment was seized. Those who were present reportedly signed non-disclosure agreements or were warned to stay silent. And from that moment on, the skeleton was never seen or mentioned in any official report again. No museum exhibit, no academic paper, no media coverage, nothing. To skeptics, this is a sure sign of fabrication. But to believers, it's a chillingly familiar pattern. Around the world, stories of giant skeletons follow the same script: a sudden awe-inspiring discovery, followed by disappearance, censorship, or denial. Consider the now infamous 2004 image claiming a giant human skeleton found in Saudi Arabia. The photo showing military personnel digging around a massive humanoid skeleton went viral. It was later exposed as a hoax photoshopped using an elephant fossil dig. Still, millions believed it, and many still do. Then there are the American newspaper articles from the 19th and early 20th centuries, the New York Times, Scientific American, and others reporting skeletons over 9 feet tall unearthed in burial mounds across Ohio, California, and Wisconsin. These skeletons, too, reportedly vanished after being sent to the Smithsonian. To this day, some accuse the institution of intentionally suppressing artifacts that don't fit within accepted evolutionary timelines. So, when we hear that a giant skeleton in China was discovered, then erased, it's not entirely unfamiliar. Whether urban myth or cover-up, it taps into a deeper anxiety that some truths might be too disruptive to share. What if such a skeleton, if real, could rewrite human history, undermine established science, challenge spiritual doctrines? Some suggest it's safer to bury the truth literally. The Mufu Mountain skeleton is not an isolated story. Across the ancient world, giants appear again and again, not just in folklore, but in religious texts, oral histories, and early writings. From the Nephilim of the Hebrew Bible, to the Rakshasa of Indian epics, to the Titans of Greek mythology, giants seem to be a universal motif. Is that because all cultures coincidentally invented the same symbol? Or could it point to something more profound, an ancient memory passed down over generations, dimmed by time and myth, but rooted in something real? Consider the Nephilim described in Genesis as the heroes of old men of renown, born from unions between divine beings and humans. Or the Patagonian giants reportedly encountered by Ferdinand Magellan's crew in South America, said to stand twice the height of an average man. In Norse mythology, The Jötnar were elemental beings that predated the gods themselves. Even indigenous Australian legends speak of enormous ancestral beings who shaped the land. Could these be cultural metaphors or echoes of a forgotten reality? Some researchers argue it's the latter. Michael Cremo, author of Forbidden Archaeology, suggests that fossil remains and artifacts of ancient giant hominins have been systematically excluded from mainstream science because they don't fit Darwinian models. Similarly, Richard Dewhurst in The Ancient Giants Who Ruled America compiles hundreds of historical accounts of giant skeletons uncovered in Native American burial sites, accounts that were later dismissed or discredited. Even mainstream science has stumbled upon puzzles. In Indonesia, fossilized remains labeled Meganthropus paleojavanicus suggest a massive hominid with unusually large jawbones and cranial features. While their classification remains debated, they hint at the possibility of ancient humans or human-like relatives far larger than we've imagined. And then there's Robert Wadlow, the Alton giant, whose verified height of 8 feet 11 inches 2.72 meters makes him the tallest human in recorded history. His condition due to pituitary gland hyperplasia reminds us that the human body can grow beyond conventional limits under the right biological circumstances. Could the legends of giants simply be stories built around rare individuals like Wadlow, or are they diluted memories of a time when such beings were not anomalies but a different kind of human altogether? In the case of the Mufu mountain skeleton, we may never know, but the question it leaves behind is more powerful than any answer. What if we are not the first dominant version of humanity? And what if remnants of a forgotten age are still buried beneath our feet, waiting to be uncovered again? So what if the story of Mufu Mountain isn't just a legend? What if what we call pseudo-science or mythology is actually a garbled memory, an echo of something once real, now lost to time and disbelief? From a scientific standpoint, there is no verified evidence of humans exceeding 3 meters in height. Biological constraints, such as cardiovascular pressure and skeletal load, make a 12 to 15 meter tall human biologically implausible. However, believers often point to real-world anomalies. Robert Wadlow of the United States, the tallest person ever recorded, stood at 8 feet 11 inches, about 2.72 meters, before his death in 1940. His height was caused by a pituitary gland disorder, suggesting that extreme size is possible under rare genetic conditions. The fossilized remains, known as Meganthropus, discovered in Indonesia, have been estimated by some to belong to a human-like creature nearly 3 meters tall, though there's debate over whether it was truly human or a type of prehistoric ape. Science has not conclusively disproven these possibilities. It simply hasn't yet found sufficient evidence to confirm them. Whether real or not, the legend of the giant skeleton at Mufu Mountain continues to live on in the minds of those drawn to ancient mysteries. It represents the thin boundary between accepted archaeology and alternative theories, the edge of what science has explored and what imagination dares to consider. In our modern world, where everything must be backed by data and verified by peer-review, stories like this remind us of something older. Deeper curiosity is one of humanity's most powerful instincts. And sometimes it's not the answers that drive us, but the questions we still can't explain. Hidden among the misty forests of southern China lies the ancient city of Guluo, also known as Kulu, a place far removed from the grandeur of the Forbidden City and absent from popular tourist itineraries. But it is precisely this quiet obscurity that makes Guluo one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in architectural history. Guluo has stood for thousands of years. And the most astonishing thing, many sections of its walls are still intact, having survived centuries of earthquakes, erosion, and natural decay without using a single drop of cement or any form of modern adhesive. How could mere bricks stacked without mortar endure the force of nature and the passing of ages? When stepping into the ruins of the ancient city of Guluo, what stops any researcher in their tracks is not its grandeur, but rather the uncanny stillness of the stone walls that have stood for millennia. They are not towering nor fully intact, yet they remain standing firm, precise, and assembled without a single drop of mortar. According to analysis conducted by an archaeological team from the Southwest University of Architecture in China, the stone blocks or fired bricks used in Guluo were carved with an extraordinary level of precision. Deep grooves, raised ridges, and carefully shaped contact surfaces allowed each block to lock tightly with the next, forming a self-supporting structure. Much like the stones of the Egyptian pyramids, whose gaps are often less than 1 millimeter wide, Guluo's construction reflects a deep understanding of mechanical force and a craftsmanship so advanced that even modern technologies would struggle to replicate it. But that is not the strangest part. In 2003, an earthquake exceeding 6.0 on the Richter scale struck near the Guluo region. According to a report in People's Daily, hundreds of modern concrete homes in nearby villages suffered cracks and even partial collapse. Yet when engineers inspected the remaining portions of Guluo's walls, they found no major cracks whatsoever. Despite having weathered centuries of erosion and discoloration, the ancient walls remained precisely in place, as if the very ground beneath them had never trembled. This raises a crucial question. How could a structure built without rebar, without a modern foundation, withstand seismic activity better than many buildings made with today's materials? Some researchers suggest that it's precisely the dry stacked construction method with minimal gaps and natural breathing space that gave the structure its resilience. Unlike concrete, which is hard but brittle, the physically flexible nature of Guluo's masonry allows it to sway slightly with ground movement, absorbing shock and reducing the risk of catastrophic failure. This principle mirrors the seismic-resistant design used in some modern Japanese architecture, which incorporates sliding bases or shock-absorbing platforms to help buildings survive earthquakes. Moreover, local materials played a significant role. The stones used in Guluo were often sourced from riverside quarries possessing a fine-grained structure, high compressive strength, and a surprising degree of elasticity. Added to this, the ancient builders designed the walls with a subtle outward tilt, helping to better distribute vertical load into the ground, unlike the perpendicular pressure found in most modern wall systems. These details, from the interlocking joints and the selection of stone to the slanted wall geometry, suggest that the builders of Guluo were not merely working from experience, but may have understood and applied natural physical principles far ahead of their time. And it is precisely this that continues to baffle modern scholars today. Guluo was more than a fortress. It was also a center of military operations and spiritual reverence. The gates of the city were topped with multi-tiered wooden towers that served two purposes: one, as observation points to spot approaching enemies, and two, as sacred spaces to worship guardian deities of the borderlands. This dual-purpose design, placing sacred watchtowers directly above the city's main entrances, reveals a deeper worldview among ancient builders. Territory was to be protected not only by weapons, but also by faith. Similar architectural philosophies were recorded in historical military texts from the Ming and Qing dynasties, such as Nanjiang Beilan, which documented fortifications across China's southern frontier. To this day, locals living near the ruins of Guluo continue to share strange stories. Some believe the walls never fall because they are spiritually sealed by the souls of their ancestors. Others say that on nights when earthquakes strike, they hear metallic clanging deep within the ground, as if the city itself were awakening to defend itself. Though science dismisses these tales as folklore, one fact remains: modern explanations still cannot fully account for the enduring resilience of Guluo's structure. Today, remnants of Guluo's city walls, watchtowers, gate foundations, and weathered stone inscriptions still remain. While it is not listed among UNESCO's World Heritage Sites, many researchers consider it a living symbol of lost construction wisdom. In 2019, a team of architecture students from the Southwest University of Architecture visited the site. In their field report, they wrote, "No mortar, no frame, no steel, and yet it has stood strong for over 1,000 years. Perhaps we need to learn more from the past than we thought." Guluo doesn't cry out to be explored. It simply stands enduring rain war and earthquakes in silence. Perhaps that's its way of reminding us. Not everything that lasts must be modern, and not every mystery needs to be dissected. With every patch of moss growing across its stones, Guluo adds another quiet line to an unfinished story, one that asks, how did the ancients build something that could defy time itself? In the vast and unending flow of ancient Chinese history, two mysterious symbols have emerged like whispers from the universe: the river map, He-Tu, and the Luo diagram, Luo-Shu. These enigmatic illustrations are not merely products of imagination. They are considered foundational elements of the entire system of Eastern philosophy. Strangely enough, even today, modern science still cannot fully explain how they came into existence, or why they encode such precise principles regarding the cosmos, mathematics, yin and yang, and the 5 elements. Without computers measuring instruments, or even mathematical notation as we know it today, how could the ancients have created diagrams that seem to transcend their time? The origins of the river map and the Luo diagram are inseparably tied to sacred legends. It is said that from the depths of the Yellow River, a mythical creature appeared, a Longma, a divine beast with the body of a horse and the scales of a dragon. Upon its back appeared a diagram made of black and white dots. This was the river map. Not long after, in the waters of the Luo River, a giant turtle surfaced, bearing a mysterious pattern on its shell. This was the Luo diagram. Ancient texts like Huainanzi and Shangshu record that these symbols emerged thousands of years before the Common Era, during the reigns of legendary rulers such as Yao Xun and Yu the Great. The ancients believed these were mandates from heaven, messages sent to help humans understand the laws of the cosmos and govern in harmony with the natural order. At first glance, the He-Tu River map and the Luo-Shu Luo diagram may appear to be nothing more than simple drawings, just dots or numbers arranged in a square. But upon closer inspection, these ancient diagrams reveal an astonishing depth of abstract thinking far beyond the era in which they emerged. They are not merely products of imagination. They reflect a sophisticated cognitive system that encodes knowledge of cosmology, yin-yang theory, mathematical combinations, and natural principles at a time when most of humanity still relied primarily on intuition and empirical observation. The He-Tu, according to legend, appeared on the back of a Longma, a mythical creature with a horse's body and dragon scales rising from the Yellow River. The diagram consists of black and white dots representing odd and even numbers corresponding to yang and yin, respectively grouped into numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These numbers are not randomly placed. They align with cardinal directions, east-west, south-north, and the center, as well as diagonal orientations. Each direction correlates with one of the five elements. Wuxing 1 represents water, 2 is fire, 3 is wood, 4 is metal, and 5 is earth. But what is truly remarkable is not the numerical assignments themselves, but how the numbers and their positions reflect the operating laws of the natural world, from seasons and weather to the birth, growth, and decline of all living things. Professor Joseph Needham, a renowned Western scholar who dedicated his life to studying ancient Chinese science, described the He-Tu as an early cosmological map, a symbolic system in which human beings sought to model the universe through intuitive yet structured thinking. In his words, "This is not just an ancient symbol, it is a system of expression, a conceptual tool to simulate reality through abstract representation." Indeed, from the He-Tu, later philosophers constructed the earlier heaven-Xiantian arrangement of the 8 trigrams Bagua, a model that depicts the fundamental states of change in nature and serves as the foundation of the I Ching Book of Changes. If the He-Tu represents dynamic cosmological movement, then the Luo Shu embodies stability, harmony, and inner order. The Luo Shu is said to have appeared on the back of a sacred turtle, surfacing from the Luo River, bearing a mysterious pattern that would later become known as the oldest magic square in human history. This 3D3 square contains 9 numbers from 1 to 9, arranged in such a way that the sum of each row column and both diagonals is exactly 15. No line breaks this rule. It is a perfect mathematical structure, still regarded by modern mathematicians as one of the most elegant early achievements in number theory. The number 15 culturally corresponds to the full moon on the 15th day of the lunar month, symbolizing completeness and cosmic balance. What puzzles scholars is that there is no evidence the Luo Shu emerged from a series of progressive refinements. Instead, it appears already fully formed with no known prototypes or rough drafts. Even more intriguing, each number in the Luo Shu seems to carry deeper symbolic meaning. The number 5 lies at the center like an axis of the universe, representing humanity or the intersection of heaven and earth. The surrounding numbers are arranged in symmetrical balance, echoing the cyclical flow of celestial forces, seasons, and life energies. While the West only began engaging with magic squares through Pythagoras, and more clearly in the works of European artists in the 16th century, the Luo Shu had already been documented in Chinese texts over 4,000 years ago. This means the Luo Shu predates Western magic squares by more than 1,500 years. In his monumental work Science and Civilization in China, Joseph Needham praised the Luo Shu as a mathematical miracle that integrates philosophy, cosmology, and spatial logic into a unified whole. To him, the Chinese magic square was not a numerical puzzle, it was a method of abstracting reality into a symbolic, structured order. Neither the He-Tu nor the Luo Shu exists in isolation. They are foundational frameworks from which the entire philosophical system of East Asia evolved. From them came the principles of yin and yang, the 5 elements, both earlier heaven and later heaven Bagua, flying star feng shui calendar systems, traditional Chinese medicine, and even ancient urban planning under the Zhou dynasty. What perplexes modern researchers most is how could a civilization without modern instruments or theoretical tools produce such precise, abstract, and comprehensive symbolic systems? Perhaps the answer lies in generations of careful observation of nature. Or perhaps it points to a form of intuition or cognition that we have since lost, a way of perceiving the cosmos not through analytical dissection, but through holistic feeling symbolism and pattern recognition. Whatever the case, the continued existence of the He-Tu and Luo Shu stands as undeniable evidence of the impossible, that ancient human beings may have understood the universe in ways more profound than modern science has yet to comprehend. Modern science, amazement, and frustration. Since the 20th century, many Western scholars have attempted to trace the origins and structure of the river map and Luo diagram. But most of their efforts stop at proposing cultural hypotheses rather than offering concrete explanations. A 2016 article in the journal Nature, in its discussion of ancient magic squares, described the Luo diagram as a unique anomaly, a system that is both perfectly symmetrical and strictly logical, yet with no clear archaeological precedent. Not only Eastern researchers but many international scholars have also recognized that these symbols do not seem to originate from any known textual tradition, but instead resemble a kind of metaphysical inspiration from a long-lost form of knowledge. And yet they persist, transcending time, continuing to influence thousands of years of historical development. What many people don't realize is that the river map and Luo diagram are not just philosophical symbols, they directly shaped multiple traditional scientific disciplines in East Asia. In the I Ching, the river map serves as the foundation for constructing the cosmological model of Taiji supreme polarity, yin-yang four symbols, and the 8 trigrams. The Luo diagram, in turn, forms the basis of the earlier heaven arrangement and calendrical numerology used in astronomy and divination. In Feng Shui, the Flying Star School, one of the most prominent systems was built directly from the Luo diagram. The numbers in this magic square correspond to time-space direction and energy flow, and are used to determine auspicious and inauspicious positions in building houses or designing tombs. Even in traditional Chinese medicine, the 5 elements theory, metal, wood, water, fire, earth, is derived from the river map. The cycles of internal organs, the flow of qi and blood, the methods of diagnosis and treatment all depend on these models to find harmony among the body's systems. Through the passage of time and dynasties, the river map and Luo diagram have persisted like 2 missing pieces in humanity's quest for cosmic understanding. No one truly knows where they originated, who first deciphered them, or how they could so precisely model the natural laws of the universe. They seem like remnants of a civilization with knowledge far beyond its era, or perhaps the product of an extraordinary intuition, one powerful enough to give rise to an entire philosophical tradition that has lasted for millennia. Sometimes what cannot be explained is exactly what keeps humanity searching. And perhaps that is why these mysterious diagrams from the 2 rivers He-Tu and Luo-Shu continue to live on in our imagination and in our yearning to reach the deepest truths of the cosmos. In the quiet plains of Shanxi province, China, lies an archaeological site called Taosi, a forgotten settlement over 4,000 years old, dating back to the late Neolithic era. For decades, researchers believed it to be just another walled town, typical of the Longshan culture, known for its early urban development and pottery. But in 2003, that perception changed forever. A team of Chinese archaeologists led by experts from the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences unearthed something entirely unexpected: a circular structure made of rammed earth, approximately 60 meters in diameter, with 13 slots or gates arranged around its perimeter. It wasn't a palace, it wasn't a tomb. They believed they had uncovered an ancient astronomical observatory, possibly one of the oldest ever constructed by human hands. In 2003, archaeologists from the Institute of Archaeology of the Chinese Academy of Social Sciences, led by Professor Liu Li, uncovered a circular structure within the Taosi site, initially identified as a ceremonial platform. However, after conducting precise measurements, using GPS and modern astronomical tools, they realized this was no ordinary ritual space. The structure featured 13 slot-like openings arranged in an arc on a rammed earth platform, nearly 60 meters wide, and it was sunlight that revealed its true purpose. During key solar events, summer solstice, winter solstice spring, and autumn equinoxes, sunlight passed directly through specific slots. This indicated that the builders had been observing the sun's annual movement across the horizon for years, perhaps generations, in order to align each opening with the precise points of sunrise and sunset at different times of the year. Researchers such as Zhang Peiheng, an astronomer from Peking University, concluded that the structure functioned as a living solar calendar, enabling an agrarian society to determine when to plant, harvest, and possibly conduct seasonal rituals. Even more remarkably, the people of Taosi had no metal tools, no telescopes, and no writing system. Yet they constructed a solar tracking device with degree-level precision, a feat that continues to astound modern scientists. At a time when Europe had not yet completed its megalithic monuments and Mesopotamian astronomers still relied on shadow sticks, gnomons, the ancient Chinese were already using light-based architecture to track celestial bodies. So who built it? Taosi was not a city of stone, but one of rammed earth and timber. And yet the existence of such a sophisticated timekeeping structure indicates a society where astronomy ritual and political power were deeply intertwined. Some archaeologists suggest that this observatory was part of a ritual calendar used by an elite class to determine the most auspicious times for planting, harvesting, and conducting sacred ceremonies. In such a society, the ability to read the sky would bestow not just respect, but cosmic authority. Here, astronomy may have served as both a practical science and a legitimizing tool of leadership, placing the power to control time and thus society in the hands of a select few. In ancient civilizations, astronomy was never separate from spirituality, and Taosi appears to be a perfect example of this union. Traditional Chinese philosophy views the universe as governed by the harmony of heaven Tian Earth Di and humanity Ren. For humans to thrive, they must live in accordance with heaven's mandate known as Tianming. Measuring time was not merely a tool for farming, but also a spiritual and political act. Those who could read the heavens were believed to be divine mediators entrusted with cosmic authority. Near the Taosi Observatory, archaeologists uncovered what they believed to be a sacrificial pit filled with human remains, animal bones, and broken pottery. They also found a massive stone drum, likely used during solar rituals, and a series of large tombs believed to belong to chieftains or priest rulers who controlled the calendar. Professor Fang Hui of Shandong University stated at a 2011 academic conference that these findings suggest the observatory was not just a scientific instrument, but also a cosmic ritual center, a place where leaders used the interplay of light and shadow to commune with the divine. If Egyptian pharaohs used pyramids to launch their souls toward the star Sirius, then the moment sunlight pierced through the Taosi gates on the winter solstice may have marked the arrival of divine presence. It was not merely the sun, it was the will of the cosmos measured in architecture. Rather than separating science from faith, the people of Taosi merged them into one. And that is what makes the observatory so difficult for modern minds to interpret, since today's science often insists on isolating reason from the sacred. Mainstream history often credits Mesopotamia or Egypt as the birthplace of astronomy. But Taosi compels us to reconsider. If a Neolithic Chinese civilization could build a solar observatory with remarkable accuracy by 2300 BCE, what else have we underestimated? This structure predates Babylonian star maps, Greek planetary models, fully realized European megaliths, and yet it is almost entirely unknown outside of China. No written records remain from Taosi. Everything we know comes from the alignment of light soil and stone interpreted through archaeological evidence rather than ancient texts. Even after years of study, many questions remain. Why was this structure abandoned so early? Why are there no similar observatories found in nearby regions? How did ancient builders achieve such precision without metal tools or writing? Even the true purpose of the observatory is still debated. Was it simply a solar calendar or part of a larger, lost spiritual or technological system that we no longer understand? The ancient observatory of Taosi is not just a relic of the past. It's a reminder of how much we still don't know and perhaps never will using science alone. It challenges our assumptions about early humans, about where knowledge comes from, and about the delicate intersection of intellect, belief, and nature. Because sometimes the most powerful mysteries are the ones that align perfectly with the sun, then disappear into shadow.